Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Let's begin our discussion on the current events of 22nd Feb 2018. The first issue in news is regarding the Aadhaar, and it is in news because recently the Supreme Court observed that absence of a law cannot be cured by subsequently enacting one with retroactive effect, pointing out that there was mass collection of personal data from citizens during the pre-Aadhaar Act years from 2009 to 2016 because the Aadhaar law came into existence only in the year 2016, which the petitioners argue is a complete invasion of privacy because there was no voluntariness on the part of citizen in sharing his or her personal data, as well as the information was open to be shared among other entities, making this huge collection of data unlawful. Given the government's emphasis on the Aadhaar scheme to make it a single unique identity for every citizen, we have to wait and watch for the final judgment of the Supreme Court in this regard. Till then, let's look into the next issue, which is regarding the recent public interest litigation filed in the Supreme Court for an investigation into the multi-crore PNB scam. The petitioner asked the court to direct the government to bring back the main accused in the fraud and further argued for guidelines to be framed by the finance ministry for loans of over rupee 10 crores. The government in response opposed the PIL to conduct an investigation by the Supreme Court, saying that an investigation was already in progress into the alleged violations. For further details on the issue, please go back and watch my previous news analysis video. Now let's move on to the next issue, which is an editorial regarding the ongoing tussle between the Delhi government and the bureaucracy in Delhi. The issue follows a series of confrontation of the Delhi government with the police and bureaucracy, with the recent one being charges of physical assault on the Chief Secretary of Delhi, leading to arrest of one of the AAP MLA. Although the Delhi government has denied the charges, the timing and the presence of a large number of MLAs at the Chief Minister's residence gives rise to the suspicion that it may have been called to intimidate the Chief Secretary because, as we know, the bureaucrats in Delhi directly report to the Lieutenant Governor, who is not bound to act on the aid and advice of his Council of Ministers. But such behavior will not change any power equations in the national capital region. But the Delhi government should work within the existing institutional arrangement and keep pushing for constitutional changes that will give Delhi full statehood rather than targeting the police officers and civil servants. Because the party's political future will depend on how it governs Delhi rather than such aggressive protests. In this regard, both the center and Delhi government must work together to see that administration is carried on as usual and refrain from politically exploiting this issue. Meanwhile, the Home Ministry is looking into the report of the Delhi Lieutenant Governor on the alleged assault of the Chief Secretary Anshu Prakash, post which suitable actions will be taken against the guilty. The action comes following a delegation of members of the bureaucracy visiting the Home Minister to look into the issue. Having said that, let's move on to the next issue, which is regarding the impact of rising levels of inflation on the policy rates. According to the recent meeting held at the RBI, the Monetary Policy Committee could shift from its current neutral stance if the consumer price inflation were to increase further, which has been an upward trend for the past few months. Given the RBI's mandate to keep the retail inflation between 2% and 6%, we might expect a change in the monetary policy stance in the upcoming bi-monthly meeting of the RBI. Having said that, let's move on to the next issue regarding the use of blockchain technology, which could have helped prevent frauds like the PMB scam. Because blockchain technology, due to its disaggregated and transparent nature, updates information across all users simultaneously and presents notification to various officials as soon as a transaction has been conducted. This is different from the transaction reconciliation systems at present, which do not result in immediate notification, thereby allowing corrupt individuals to exploit loopholes in the banking infrastructure. In this regard, central banks around the world, including the US Federal Reserve and the Reserve Bank of India, have been examining this technology to understand the regulatory challenges it might pose. However, it should be noted here that simply depending on technology to prevent frauds is also not going to yield the desired results, since these take place at a human level, where an official with the correct authentication can misuse the system. But given the transparent nature of blockchain technology, such human error can be greatly mitigated. Having said that, let's move on to the next issue, which is regarding the concerns expressed by the Bangladeshi government on the implementation of the National Register for Citizens in Assam. The Bangladesh government fears that the ongoing process of compiling the National Register of Citizens in Assam may trigger an exodus of Bengalis into Bangladesh, creating one more refugee crisis in the region, which has already been troubled by the Rohingya refugee crisis. Also, the issue might negatively affect India Bangladesh ties as some anti India elements and Islamic fundamentalists for their own cause. Also, section of the ruling Awami League leaders too believes that India has not reciprocated Ms. Hasina's support for counter-insurgency operation in the northeastern states, and sticky issues like the one on river water sharing of the Teesta still remains to be resolved between the two nations. Having said that, let's move on to the next issue, which is regarding the assurances given by the visiting Prime Minister of Canada that he believed in a united India and would not support any separatist movement in the country. This is a welcome development given India's concerns over increasing Canada's support to the Khalistani movement, which could negatively affect the bilateral relations between the two countries. For further details on this issue, please go back and watch my previous news analysis video. The next issue in news is regarding a charge sheet filed against a former Pakistani diplomat in a case of conspiracy to attack vital establishments in India like the US consulate, the Israeli consulate, the Eastern Naval Command, and ports across the country. The NIA, after conducting a thorough investigation and collecting relevant evidences, has decided to file the case against the former diplomat. This is a cause of grave concern from Indian security perspective and will further discuss this issue in the days to come. Till then, let's move on to the other issues in news. The first one being the revamp of the electronic national agricultural market by the central government to include mobile payment facility using Beam and other features in regional languages to engage more farmers on the platform. The second one being the beginning of the mass nesting of the endangered olive ridley turtles in the Rushikulya rookery in Ganjam district of Odisha. The Rushikulya coast is considered to be a major nesting site in the whole world, and lakhs of olive ridley turtles come here every year for nesting. For further details on the issue and the steps taken by the Odisha government to conserve these endangered species, please go back and watch yesterday's news analysis video. Final issue in news is regarding the extension of the emergency period in Maldives, for which India has expressed its displeasure. We have already discussed the causes for the political and constitutional crisis in the island nation and the role of China and India as well as the global community in tackling the evolving crisis. So I request those who have missed it to go back and watch the previous news analysis videos. Having said that, I wrap up today's news analysis. Do share this content if you like it. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.